But what I found amazing in the National Post, Sheila, we have an article, Why Quebec Separatists Are Embracing the Trump Factor. Quebecers don't like the American president, but separatist leaders portray him as less of a threat than Canada. Excuse me? Less than a threat of Canada. How are you getting threatened in Canada, Quebec? Supply management?
They get everything they want.
Yeah, transfer payments. I mean, this is insane. And in fact, it shows you the fallacy. Remember when they were trying to soft pedal separation? Well, you know what? Not full independence, sovereignty association, which means we're going to be independent, but we're going to keep our fingers in the cash till, if you don't mind, right? I mean, Sheila, what's your assessment on this?
Yeah, I mean, it's nonsense, right? Like, how is Canada a threat to Quebec? They get everything they want. For some reason, I have to have French on my soup out here because of them. Right?
Yep.
They obstruct our pipelines. They have insane language laws. You cannot be an upper echelon bureaucrat in this country unless you are fluent in French. You cannot be on the Supreme Court unless you're fluent in French, which is, of course, obstructionist towards Westerners. It's discriminatory against Westerners where we don't need that extra language to function in society. So they are disproportionately overrepresented in the upper levels of bureaucracy and in law. So I don't understand it. But moreover, to your point, we are more likely to leave than they ever will because we don't want the money. For those of you who don't know, and I'm going to once again ask for your help. If you are in the chat, I've written a book. It has just come back from the editor. Last time I talked to you guys, it was still with the editor. He said my copy was very clean, grammatically speaking. So that's great. And so we're ready for publication, but my problem is I don't have a title. And so let me tell you about what it's about. And you can go back last week. I read like the epilogue to it. I did a stirring rendition of it. But it's about what we can learn from the 1995 Quebec Commission on Sovereignty as Albertans, because they did a lot of thinking that we haven't done yet about insurance and markets and finance and continuity of services. Everyone's worried about, what's going to happen with my pension, what's going to happen with this, what's going to happen with that. So the assessment was that they were headed to referendum just on culture and language. Now, we are headed to referendum, I firmly believe, on culture and language with the additional overlay of economics and federal discrimination against us. The French have never been discriminated against a day in their life. And I think it was Blanchet. Do you remember he had that moment of envy and sadness? You could sort of see in that video where his heart breaks when he was asked about Western separatism, because he knew we would do it first, because we actually want to leave. And they don't. I firmly believe Quebecers don't, and probably never really did, want to leave. They stand to lose too much. We have nothing to gain by staying.
So to go back to your original premise, you are looking for a word, a phrase as the title for your new book that encompasses all that.
All of that. Sorry, I never even got to my point. I went off on a David Menzies tangent. Yeah, if you guys have any ideas about for a title, that's the worst part of writing a book, is finding a title that is like search engine good, for lack of a better term, so that when people are Googling for information, your book comes up higher on the list. Ideally, that's my marketing strategy. But I also need to articulate what the book is about in just a few words. So anyways, if you guys have any ideas, put them in the chat. I promise I'll read them. But Blanchet's, he's sad. He's sad. We're going to leave before him.
But Sheila, fair is fair. Surely offer a reward for the title you choose.
Is this it? Is this when he gets asked? Yes. You know what? I'll flip you guys a t-shirt if I choose your title. And a book. Let's watch. Okay. And a book. Is that Blanchet being sad, Efron? Is that it? Okay, let's watch because I love this. I could watch this clip all day long because he knows. He knows. We're going before they are.
Suggested that Mark Carney is a bit of a lemon, or Canadians bought a lemon with Mark Carney. Sounds like you're kind of ruling out or writing him off in terms of his abilities. Does that suggest that this party, your party, won't be comfortable working with the Liberals going forward?
Our party will say what it has always said, that we are promoting, protecting the interests of Quebec, and the idea that we should make our own choices. I believe some other parts of the country are starting to have the same thinking.
Starting.
They refuse the possibility of having a support from us with very clear conditions, and then they refuse the possibility to go through the whole process with a partner up to the end of it. So they will live the same anxiety that we have seen this morning with the Prime Minister and Mrs. Joly and Mr. Champagne and who else? Because at each step of this long process, including the committee, they will have to start all over again because they were not good partners for anybody. They exploited the momentary weaknesses of everybody, and this is not how policy should be done. So I believe it will come bite their ass.
Bite their ass. I don't think that was the right clip. There's one where he's asked very specifically about Alberta, and you could see he's sort of biting his lip because he knows deep down we're getting out of here before he ever is.
Well, if Efren can find that. And by the way, is that a matter of fact, Sheila, you kind of winced when I mentioned that one poll that came out showing 3 out of 10 Albertans being pro-separatist. Do you think the number's actually really much higher?
I believe it is much higher. And in the most interesting places, people are quietly having conversations. Like when I was in Saskatchewan 2 weeks ago, 10 days ago, for that religious freedom event hosted by Andrew Lawton, you would not believe, and I can't say publicly, who was a separatist. And I was like, what? You know, I'm a journalist, right? But I'll just keep it to myself. But yeah, it's people.
Is it more prickly than bite your ass?
Yeah, it's people you wouldn't believe. Like when you go to these town hall events, it is young people, people holding like babies in car seats coming to vote for separatism. So, anyways, we should show this video of Finance Minister and Ezra's new best friend, Francois Philippe Champagne, responding to U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent endorsing Alberta separatism. I'm not even sure he endorsed our separatism. He just basically said, "Good for you guys," which is all we want from them. Champagne basically says that I guess the feds are still in charge. So let's watch. No audio.
Should you be a little stronger? Like Scott Bessent is talking about Alberta joining the U.S. Shouldn't you be telling him to lay off here?
Listen, one thing I've learned over time is that you don't need to comment on every single comment that are being made. One thing I would say is that we have signed an MOU with Alberta. Canadians are proud people. Canadians know how to build resources. Canadians know how to grow our economy. And I would say they will see that. Canada is taking steps with Alberta to do things differently, to grow our resources, to create growth in the country. And Canadians are very proud. We're a proud nation with proud values and a very strong economy. So I would say no, thanks, but no thanks. We will do our own things, and we will be able to develop our resources with Albertans, with Canadians. And that's something that will remind him next time I see him.
Sheila, was I in a coma recently? I mean, how is the Albertan oil and gas sector being developed right now by this government?
Well, not by them. I mean, it's doing well in spite of him.
Yes.
But he's like the fat, ugly girl at the bar who blocks the guy. Like, no, she's going home, That's who he is. You know, if the Americans want to talk to us and say nice things to us, call us pretty, I'm listening. I don't need the fat lady at the bar just coming in and cutting my grass like that. He, by the way, we're doing nothing different. They signed an MOU and then immediately gave veto to a fake First Nations organization called Coastal First Nations, which is not a First Nations group at all, but a foreign-funded activist group jangling around with Rockefeller money in their pocket and Bezos money in their pocket out of San Francisco. So and then gave Quebec a veto also. So yep. Nothing's changed. The MOU was just a piece of paper, and the day it was signed, we were in the room, and I was looking at Ezra, and everyone around us seemed real excited, and I was like, they read the same thing I did, right? Like, yep. This doesn't mean anything.
I know.
So anyway, we found the aforementioned, much promised bloc leader, Francois Blanchet, being bitter about Alberta separatists.
For the people in Alberta who want to separate, do you have any tips for them on how to actually get the job done?
Our success so far, it does not place me in a position to give them tips about what to do, but I could give them tips about what not to do. Not now. The first idea is to define oneself as a nation.
Good.
Therefore, it requires a culture of their own. And I am not certain that oil and gas qualify to define a culture. But it's theirs to decide if they want to vindicate the right to self-determination. Would never interfere in that. It belongs to them. I would like us to be the first to do so.
You won't.
You know, Sheila, I found that question so funny on so many levels, especially given the success rate. What I'm getting at, it's kind of like a sports reporter going to the brain trust of, say, the Cleveland Browns and saying, do you have any Super Bowl tips for the other 31 teams in the league?
Right.
I'm speaking, of course, of a team that's never in its history even been to the Super Bowl.
Asking the Leafs for advice on how to win the Stanley Cup in the last half century.
Post 67, yes.
Exactly. But yeah, I'm not sure oil and gas is a culture. How about hard work, freedom, and personal responsibility? That's the freedom of Albertans. Leave it to the welfare case of Confederation to not know that, though.
But you know what really grinds my gears? This whole, I'm not sure oil and gas is a culture, and it speaks to one of your earlier points. Yeah, where they're always running interference in terms of pipeline projects going east, i.e. to their province. But wait a minute. Quebec doesn't have some mandate of being 100% EV vehicle in the future, or riding around in bicycles. They import Saudi oil, right? Yep. So that's okay. And I mean, and if there's a difference, there's a big difference, folks. Read Ezra's book, Ethical Oil, about what Canadian oil producers, the bar they have to rise to versus those in the Middle East. So, yeah, we're against you profiting, but we're not going to give up oil and gas. Oh, no. Right. That is absolute blatant hypocrisy.
Yeah, and I'm not taking advice from a province that still has, like, Victorian-era sanitation for their rivers.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Right? Yep. When you flush the toilet there, it's not see you later, or it's not so long, it's see you later in the river, untreated. That's what they do in Montreal. So I'm not taking any environmental advice from him.
Has Mr. Guilbeault ever weighed in on that, given that he's from that province and he's all about the environment?
No.
No one's ever asked him that? I mean...
I'd love to, but I can't get near the guy.
Well, yeah. Wow. So that's really something.